The little red light is blinking. That's what they used to call back in the day the tally light, right? When the camera was suddenly on and the light would go on and you'd be like, live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Wow.
All right, well, let's get started, shall we? It's half past the hour today. It is the daily briefing with Joel and Tim, but we actually have three gentlemen who have become regular faces on this journey we've been on for, I don't know now, what, 5 or 6 weeks? It feels like, but I am excited to say
it's 2 years.
2 years, that's what I'm thinking.
2 years. Well, I'm Joel, but I'm going to have each person say hi and introduce themselves and then pass it off. So Marcel, let's start with you.
Hi guys. It's been like I was fired from this whole live thing, but now I'm back. I'm Marcel from State. Pleasure to be here with you guys.
All right, who are you going to pass the baton to?
I'll pass to Dallas.
I'm Dallas. I have a place called De Facto Sound Design, and I also host a podcast called 20,000 Hertz. And I have never met Marcel or Ryan before, so everyone can experience this together.
No pressure. All right, Ryan, say hello to us. You're our third eminent guest here today.
Hey everybody, Ryan. I'm here from School of Motion. Do you still hear me?
Oh, there you go. Yep, you're back. You said, I heard Ryan from School of Motion.
From School of Motion, and I'm here frozen in Milwaukee, waiting for the spring to start.
All right, and Tim also with us here as well. Say hello, Tim.
It's so good to be with you today. Marcel, just for clarity, we didn't fire you. We replaced you with Ryan, and it's pretty obvious you know that because you passed it to Dallas. You're avoiding Ryan. Straight out. We know we have a rivalry now between the two of you guys. I can feel it.
Oh, no.
No. I'm going to lose this. It's not fair. I mean, it's a much better option to have Ryan.
I didn't sign up for this. Not at all.
Well, so far, I'm already disappointed. I'm sporting some swag that our friend Colin from 01 sent in. Thanks for the swag. I'm always happy to represent. Oh, also, I got to give Shauna a little shout out for my pop socket that I got. So always good to put our friends' faces and brands out there. So today, what are we talking about? Let's get into it. This is really an opportunity for us in this daily briefing format and this community that we've been building here to look forward to transitioning to some other format or routine to keep having these conversations. But as we did that, we thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great to get the perspective of some of these other voices? And so we said, hey, Ryan, Marcel, Dallas, can you come and just share with us what have been some of your biggest takeaways from this experience? And Tim, I'll give you an opportunity also just to chime in before I immediately start throwing questions at these guys.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on what Joel's saying. Some of the idea, Marcel, that you really kind of infused in the conversation we had is the thought of listening to the group. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the three of you guys joining us over the weeks and adding your perspective to it. It's been a great conversation. I think our community's enjoyed and been thriving because of the conversations you guys inspired in us. So we appreciate you for doing this.
Yeah, I would say, Marcel, can I tackle or put you on the hot spot first? Because you were such an instigator as this thing got started. What has just getting together and seeing these people come together every day and have a daily conversation, what's been your takeaway or what's it meant to you?
Well, it was really great, man. I feel like our first idea was to get together and talk about the problems. And when you talk about it, you start doing this self-reflection, So I was like thinking about it more and knowing what people are going through and everything. So it felt to me, a place that I can be myself and just talk about things and help other people. I was able to connect with a lot of my peers, like on the side as well. So people reaching out to me and say, hey, what do you think about this? So it is a place actually for me to just come in and really talk about things and not having to wear a shield, So I'm like, I come in here and I can talk because everyone is in the same boat. I keep saying this, I keep saying the same boat, but we are in the same storm different boats. But
Well
I get
said.
it. I get the concept now. But yeah, so it was really refreshing. Even like I was attending the podcast on the side too. Like sometimes when I wasn't at the hotspot, I was just on the side just listening. It was such great information, and just getting that sense of community to me made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of curious to hear from Ryan. You also were a bit of a co-instigator, maybe not by design, almost by accident. But when we brought you into the conversation, it was really cool hearing how much you had to share just from your perspective and your experience. What's it been like for you?
Well, besides making sure I step on my facial care game every couple of days because I never know what I'm going to look like. I think the word you just used, perspective, man. Like I think you lose track of that even in the best of times, right? Like you lose track of it when you're busy, when you're working, you get caught up into competition. But I like the way Marcel said it, that it's something I hope I take even after this. I hope more of us take on. Just this conversation is important to be having, whether or not there's a pandemic or we're locked in our basements or we're all theoretically competing against each other, that the world is a lot bigger than who we think we're kind of fighting for clients and fighting for work, and that there's as much to learn from each other's kind of experiences as there is to like kind of outgun each other at the same time. It's been really interesting to see them all under the same pressure in wildly different places and maybe different clients and different kinds of work. We all have kind of to teach each other, and it's something I hope it keeps going, whether it's daily or weekly or splinter groups roll off of this. That kind of friendly competition vibe is a lot better than what I think I kind of used to frame my perspective from before.
You actually have a question. So Dallas, you've been part of these briefings as well as part of our online confab group and Jumpstart Accelerator. Can you even keep straight the different conversations you've heard us had over the last 5 weeks or so?
It's just a RevThink avalanche of information that I just take. I don't try to even categorize it. I just take it as it comes and try to just store it away.
People die in avalanches.
So to piggyback off of that sentiment, the thing that's been I think about this a lot. Like when I was a kid, I felt like I was crazy because I didn't have people who had my same interests. Then you go to college and you meet all these people with your same interests. Well, as you're, then you go to like get a master's degree, then you start and you meet, designers and people who are like you. But then as you kind of get to this level in our career, you start to realize how few people in the world think about business in the way that we think about. Like, sure, I have a bunch of bankers and attorneys, neighbors, but I can't just talk to like the retail, owner down the street about what I do specifically. And so as this world gets smaller and how few and far between these people are that think like we do and need that direct advice, it just brought back sanity because I just don't have, I can talk to some of my collaborators and stuff, and that's great, but that still comes with certain biases and just business relationships and stuff. But this is kind of like a free space to talk about different things, so it's been pretty helpful for me.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Some of what I knew, like the first day I kind of Marcel and I were talking, I called Joel, I said, I'm just going to turn on the camera because there's enough questions happening. There was really that moment of crisis, and I think we can all kind of recall that first kind of shutdown day, and there was a lot of just oh crap everywhere, right? Like what it meant for our office to move people out, to change office spaces, to figure out get people online, to losing projects. That's probably one of the first big crisis thoughts that we have. I spent 2 weeks building cash flows for people. Anybody want to put their kind of memories out there of like what it was originally, and then maybe what the tipping point was from that crisis moment to maybe reconciling where you are now?
I can jump in here. I'm a very panicky person in general. My wife is very in tune with that. And I think that when all this stuff happened, it felt like everything was falling apart. But like as time has passed, I've been able to like ground myself and realize like I'm alive, like I'm healthy, like things are okay. You go to my family, their family, it's alive. Then the people that I work with, they're working, they have to work in order for us to work. And then the people above them have to work in order for them to work. And so it is somewhat of a community that's kind of built on top of each other. And then with the benefit of everyone reaching out, talking to each other, I think I've been more like keenly aware of how reliant we are on all of our relationships, kind of all the way top down, bottom up, like everyone's trying to figure this out. So I've come away from this a lot more confident in where things are going, based off of just the trust of all the people that we're working with, and the friendships and even, business relationships that I have, that now we're kind of communicating. I see this as like a great equalizer in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of antiquated ways of thought, a lot of antiquated ways of working that, could have taken 10 years. And this is an awful situation for a lot of people, but I think it's like a giant wake up call for the reality of being 2020, and how much we can communicate with each other, and how much more efficiently we can do that. So I've been an optimist with that, with points of, scariness throughout that.
Marcel, you kind of are a leader to me, if you ask. If from my perspective, you're a leader to me when it comes to the idea of collaborating with co-business owners instead of competing with them. You have this kind of forward thought, and maybe it's confidence that you have, but you haven't really ever presented yourself as someone that's afraid of giving away secrets or encouraging other people. There's some kind of infusion that is possible in participating in this community and sharing, your honest ideas or honest feelings.
Yeah, well, there's I think even like after the COVID, to me, there's something that hit me on a personal level, in like, there's a big lesson to learn from all of this. And when I think about those big questions and the big lessons that we need to learn, its state itself is at the bottom of my priority in terms of learning. So it's like, I need to learn how to help people, to connect with people, to create connections, to all of that. Because eventually, I said that on a public speak before, that I don't think state's gonna survive forever, but Marcel's gonna be here for a long time, hopefully. Like, I don't even want a state to be around for 30 years, 20 years. I really don't. I don't want to see state dying. I want to kill it before it gets sick. But the whole thing to me is actually like help. When you use the word help and you're helping people, even like to think about solutions, you're also stopping to think about how to help people, and then you learn from that thinking process. Even when I describe my workflow or my actions to other people, I have a time that I can rethink about all of that, and even to do like a self-reflection if that's right or not. So to me, I don't mind sharing stuff, because it makes me feel like, in two different ways. One, that I'm helping someone, and also like, okay, now I'm sharing this, I need to step up my game and keep going, moving forward. So it's a forward thinking. I know some people are like, oh, we can't share, secrets. I don't see people as competitors, because I don't want every project that it's out there. Trust me. I just wanted the projects that it's meant to me. I want competitors to have their projects too, so we all create this community, right? But yeah, so to me, it's like answering those big questions, like, we're here, what's the proposed to be here? Like, are we here just to do business? No, I'm here to connect, to help people, to create this community and keep going,
Yeah.
Speaking of community, Ryan, I'm curious to ask you, what is, now that you're seeing, let's call it the before, maybe the after. I know that we've got a long ways to go.
The journey.
Yeah, exactly, the journey. But maybe what's the arc that you've experienced so far? And then like Marcel was saying about community.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway that you get from this experience? Because I'm obviously a big fan of community, and I think Marcel's making a great point of what we can all benefit by being connected with one another.
Yeah, I think it just in terms of like crisis for me personally, like I made this move from being a really active creative director and turning down some crazy positions to join a community right when all this stuff started, for the most part, like settling into this position, making a big move, having a little kid. So I was feeling the crisis really acutely. And then I started getting phone calls from my friends from, the other side of the world, getting how do I find jobs? What's going on? What do you know? And that started really making me wonder where the safe harbors were, and did I make the right decision, even at being a place like School of Motion. And we were in the middle of a huge transition and getting ready to launch another semester. And I was scared, honestly. Like, there isn't a lot of flexibility in that position if all of a sudden people don't have the money, at least, or the wherewithal to kind of sign on. And I think only recently do I feel like I've crossed that threshold, because we've seen our numbers are doing well, but I'm starting to see the reality of the world in terms of schooling. Just selfishly on our side, all of California State Universities are not going to be open for the fall, but people aren't going to take a full year to stop their education. People are going to possibly be more focused. They may be changing their whole idea about education. So for us, selfishly, I feel like we've crossed that threshold. And then I think in terms of just community, the thing that's been really eye-opening for me, we ran a scholarship program because we kind of felt powerless, right? Like, we can't send work to people, we can't get people hired, we can't help connect people the way we normally would. And we did this thing where we made a call for scholarships, people who were interested, that were affected by COVID, and we had thousands of people, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And it was a really big call to me of something I already believe, but part of our calling is to increase the community as much as possible, like increase who the community can even be considered, right? It was really shocking to us to start hearing stories from people from all around the world that are desperate to get into this community. They're knocking down the doors to try to find a way in. And this was a really interesting opportunity to hear those personal stories, talk to people, and really get that sense that, part of the mission, like Marcel was saying, is that lifting everybody up is not reducing yourself or pulling down your opportunities, right? It just creates more opportunities. And that's very counterintuitive from a business sense. And I think just culturally in a industry sense, to think that, if I just open up the floodgates and there's 4,000 more people that can bid, that there's that many less opportunities for you. But I think it's very different. I think it just opens up all the opportunities that are possible. And I think if you just think of what motion design is, we are still in a very kind of focused, narrow view of what that could actually be.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. It's nice to see that idea of in order for someone else to increase, it doesn't mean that you have to decrease. I would say that's a very optimistic point of view, but I think we've actually seen that play out in reality now over these past 6 weeks or so. I mean, I would love to hear from one or more of you guys as we think about how this is going to move forward. We're certainly trying to decide, is this perhaps going to shift to maybe a Monday briefing that we do once a week, maybe a start the week, end the week type of community. Does that sound encouraging to you? Or just, have you seen any other models or examples out there that you think could help us continue to keep this community moving forward? Because I think that's where we're all going to find, well, we're going to continue to stay connected, benefit from each other, make each other stronger, and continue keeping this community thriving. So Ryan, I guess I'll start with you. Do you have any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. I think it's been great to like daily meet with people and just make sure everybody's alive and okay, and do that gut check and just make sure, like, see that, when you say you're not stressed, you're actually not stressed, or that you actually are. But I think going forward, man, these weekly meetups, just starting to identify what the business opportunities are out in the world post COVID in a more kind of like freewheeling open way, and having them be kind of spirited debates or conversations. We're in this world where there's so many opportunities, and we're on the cusp of all these new canvases. Like Unreal 5 just got announced today, right? And everyone in the motion design world is just like, their heads popping off their shoulders, thinking like, what's possible? But 3 years ago, we could have already been having these conversations, and studios could have been positioned so when Unreal 5 comes out, they're leading the conversation. They're not just reacting to it, right? And I know that might seem trite right now while we're all just trying to keep our doors open, but I love that could be part of the conversation as well, that this merging of creative and business opportunities, and all of us throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks. I would love for that to be part of the kind of weekly conversation.
Marcel, what about you? What do you think is possible if we shift this into some sort of a less frequent format, but still keep it highly relevant?
Oh man, this is needed, and I feel like this, to me, like the daily brief was so important at that time that it happened, because the way I can make like a metaphor here, like we were actually crawling at that point, and now we learned how to stand up and do like a few steps. Now it's like, okay, everyone feels, do we all feel good? Everything is okay, so we're alive, We have a community. We have a place that we can talk about things. We can talk about business. We can rely on each other. Even I was checking on a friend of mine the other day. I was like, dude, are you okay with like projects? And he's like, oh, dude, we're not getting a lot of projects. And I said, let me see if there's anything that we can do together. Cause I really don't want people to go away. You know, like if there's something that I can share with you, sure, let's do it. You know, but I feel like the weekly conversation can be a place where, you know, we don't lose it all. We can come back in here with those ideas and how we can rely on each other in terms of like get this going. Because, you know, if you think about the crisis and everything, companies that stop advertising, they're going to die for good. It's not that it's if there is a moment that they cannot stop doing advertising, it's now. You know, I know that we're all trying to find the tonality of it, you know, like you don't want to sound like this, you don't want to say something like that, but companies and brands, they need to keep doing whatever they are doing. Otherwise, they're going to, you know, go away for good. So these are like the topics that I would love to come back in here and talk about ideas, how we're going to help the live action people, you know, how we're going to connect with them, how we're all going to work together. And this can be a great opportunity to keep going to make the industry even stronger.
So Tim, that let's not leave Dallas out here, twisted in the breeze. What's your take on that?
So as people who are creative, you know, we were never really trained well to be business people. So it's critical. We were creatives first, then we stumbled into getting so busy that we made a business out of it. In addition to that, a lot of us as creatives have weird backgrounds in one way or the other. And something that I've been doing for 20 years, relatively consistently is counseling, talking, getting these feelings out, all these like scars in my mind from childhood and family and all that stuff. Like you got to get that stuff out or it just eats your body and your mind away. And so a business support group or a business counseling is critical for my own sanity. I feel like we all just went through we have like a special kinship over this PPP together that we'll always have for the rest of our life. But then again, I really think we will be these ones that I thought about this a lot when this was happening. I realized that a lot of the world was just going to stop or not know how to proceed. And we can really define how the future looks right now by reacting so aggressively. And there's so many equalizations that I think could happen. I mean, like, for example, working with agencies that are just like, what? You can send a video link to review to my house? Like it was, you know, like it's the future. And it's like agencies, like I love it, you know, good people at agencies, but agencies are so bloated with, you know, taking a humongous portion of cash for creative and then just doling out these little bits and stuff. And I think this is going to help to elevate these creatives into this world and see that some places are bloated and don't need to be. Some of the creative is watered down based off of a 50-person, you know, meeting over something. So we get the same stuff over and over again. So I'm, you know, I think fortune favors the bold in this moment, and really aggressively kind of defining how we want the world to look because we are on the right bleeding edge of it.
Yeah.
I've been looking back on the different titles we've come up with for the last 8 weeks in doing this, and so often the pattern seems to be, you know, talking about a specific crisis or a direct need. So the PPP loan, or will I survive COVID, the toilet paper myth. And then right after that, like I would have a desire and I kind of push Joel to say like, yeah, but we have to be leaders. We have to talk about what comes next. We have to give people the idea that they're in charge of their destiny. We can't just be victims to this process. And Dallas, a lot of what you're saying has that same kind of tonality of like, there's going to be something different, something new, something great. There's going to be a reset. And I want people to like dive into this moment. I was talking to one of my clients this morning, and these clients are people that really wanted some lifestyle freedom in their business. And they were trying to strategically figure out how to introduce that into the business. And I told them this morning, like, the key is going to be to not reintroduce the old way of doing it. Like everything's already been reset. Let's just make up new rules of what
Yep.
it's going to take to grow the business. So I
Man,
appreciate that perspective.
I mean, one
That's
other
very-
thing just to
that's-
also
okay.
think about too is just that bad things happen to people all the time. Just that now we have a cumulative
We did it
group
together. Yeah.
bad thing, and this
Yeah.
and even group countrywide, nationwide, worldwide bad things have happened in the past, and people recover. People are amazing, and we're doing this thing. And if anybody has dealt with family members with cancer or yourself or all these things, like people show their best in difficult circumstances. And so I have this tendency to just get like kind of, oh no, why me, like panic, never going to come out of this. But we're not immune from this stuff. We live in an amazing country, and there's people living in much worse situations than we are that are thriving or attempting to. And it's just it's an obstacle. I read a great book, "The Obstacle is the Way," that is kind of key, something that I think about a lot. Like, this obstacle is what will define the future.
Yeah, I love the thought that you're making, Dallas, about that. There's going to be some new ways and new approaches, right? Like maybe the bloated agency model is going to finally be taken out back and taken out of its misery. But I think there's an opportunity for this community of owners to start solving those problems in a way that benefits everyone. Like, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. How does that work for you? How does that work for us? Because I think there's just there's a big enough world out there. There's plenty of opportunity that's going to be coming. I look forward to keeping this group and this community going forward, because there are going to be a lot of opportunities to say, here's how we are going in and solving those problems that maybe the agencies used to solve, but they can't do it anymore. So we've got to come up with new solutions, and we can do this together and make each other stronger.
Yeah, Ryan, what are you going to say?
I was just going to piggyback off of what you and Dallas were both saying, is that I think I look to my friends in animation that are having this unique opportunity to solve a problem that they've faced, at least in America, for decades. That, in America, animation is essentially babysitting fodder. And now when no one can shoot live action, they're the ones who are getting the call. And this is a brief moment in time that could completely change the landscape for an entire industry that's been saddled with a certain reputation or a certain expectation. And I look at motion design as, uniquely kind of positioned to be more than just making commercials for people that live for 2 weeks and then go away. I don't have the answers to how that happens, but we can do what a lot of people can't do in a time where they're not going to be coming back full on for a long time at full capability. So there's some important decisions as business owners that we're going to all be facing in terms of, like, there's going to be a rush of work, and you're going to have to choose what type of work to take. And there's going to be a lot of easy wins, but there may be some more difficult swings to take that can open up what motion design as a company and as an industry actually can be defined as.
There's a sociological term of threshold, and the idea of a threshold is almost like a tipping point of, like, how many bodies does it take before you're willing to commit to dive into a movement or a change. And I feel like sometimes when we're in the fear mode or in the unknown quantity mode, we often hide ourselves back waiting for the threshold or the someone else to make those decisions. It feels too risky to be out there. But when you guys talk, it sounds like you're processing this a lot. I know, Marcel, like you actually were one of the first people to put those words out there in our community and start saying, like, hey folks, we gotta start thinking about what it means to the small business owner to just be shut in. And maybe we're the ones that are being selfish by really holding back and being really our privileged life of, like, isn't it great? We could do motion design from our back porch, when there are actually people out there that need to function and do business and provide for their family and their livelihood in a different way.
Yeah, I that thing, it's still like, I'm still processing that, and I'm even like trying to work with some of my friends to see what can we do to actually help that. In fact, like, because again, we're so lucky that we have the opportunity to, again, do work from a computer. But if the people out there, if the guy who works at the gas station, he loses his job, that affects me in a couple of months, regardless. It affects all of us. So we need to make sure that we're look into those problems again. But one thing that it's really encouraging to me is that I feel like from now to the future is we're gonna be eager for life more than ever. You know, like more than ever, we're gonna be dying to watch sports more than ever because we don't have sports for 2 months. Are you kidding me? I'm dying to watch a game. I'm dying to see something live, even if it means that I have to wear a helmet or a mask or whatever. I want to go. You know, so we are gonna be wanting that even more than before. So that encourages me to actually think about the future and be present and really structure myself to be ready for that moment because we're all dying to the comeback, right? Whatever the comeback is, but we're going to be dying for that kind of situation. So that is really encouraging. And also to me, it's like I noticed that after this whole problem, I start developing some new habits too. I noticed that even like projects that we were doing a certain way, we start paying a closer attention to those projects, and now we found ways to produce projects like more efficiently. So we're paying a closer attention. I'm like, really? Did we need a freaking virus to teach us that? We could have done this for the past 6 years. We would save so much money, that what we were doing. So many positive. I know that we're all like, mourning for the deaths and the people who lost their lives and everything. So it's a sad moment, but also there is like a positive outcome in the future for us, right in front of us, which is going to be, we're all going to be eager for living the life even more.
Well, look, we're at our 31-minute mark, so we should be polite to everyone here that's showed up and needs to get on with their day. But I do have, you gave me one final thought there, Marcel, and I'm actually going to point this question to Dallas because, Tim and I have this vision, and I think you guys all have it as well, that there's this benefit to this larger group that we've been building here. And we also have this idea of groups breaking off from this group. And we know right now, Tim, you and I have been talking about, there are a lot of people asking about, how do I do this whole marketing and positioning thing? How do I get sales going again? What do I do in regards to production? How do I manage the money part of it more responsibly? So as we think about how to put that into a smaller group that's a structured format, AKA like an accelerator, Dallas, I would just love to hear, because you've been through that experience, what do you find beneficial about getting into that sort of a group format?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'll kind of just sideways answer that. We're talking specifically about Jumpstart, right?
Yep.
So my experience with Jumpstart is like, it really like clarified that thought I said really early on about how we all started our businesses because we were in demand as creatives, but we were never trained in business. Like we're not equipped to do that. No business would hire us to run their business because we have no business experience. and so at some point we have to figure out the business aspect of it. And so the Jumpstart for me was just kind of like, I think it was 9 weeks or something of just not, I mean, like I've done the business for 10 years. So I thought I got it all figured out. And then doing the Jumpstart, I was just like, I have not thought about any of these things or most of these things. And so it reframed a lot of things that I think inherently I was kind of doing just as my gut saying to do something. But there's a big difference between my gut saying to do something and having like real pragmatic, like understanding of why I'm approaching something in a specific way. And then that also brings a lot of creativity around it. So yeah, Jumpstart for me is something that I'm kind of blasting from the rooftops with all of my collaborators. And I mean, there's so many people that I talk to over the phone, just personal friends that we also work with, that I'm like, as Joel Pilger would say, blah, 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 blah. I say it all the time. Like everybody knows that name because I say it all the time.
My ears are burning. Well, I'll just say this. I mean, obviously that specific curriculum we go through there is what it is. But I'm a big fan also of just the idea of going through something that's structured, right? Where okay, this week we're going to do this, and then it'll build on the next week, and then the next week, and the next week. And then going through that with a small group, as you experienced, having that collaboration, hearing how other people are processing it, hearing how they're applying it. I think there's all sorts of unexpected benefits and surprises that come out of that.
Especially when people have revelations at the same time, and you all design that really well to kind of have these aha moments. You know how like stand-up comedians like know all the beats to hit that thing. I can see it in your face when you know it's coming, and then you drop it, and then everyone goes, ah, wow, that's something. And so it is interesting to be able to mull over things, also in a structured way, where because a lot of these concepts you really need like a week just to like sleep on them to get them deep into your brain. The other thing too, I mean, I don't know who we're if we're trying to sell anybody on it, but just the idea of just like I just lost my train of thought there. There was something really good there. So just imagine I say something incredible here. I love it. The aha moments, the deep permeation of the brain, and experiencing that with other human beings that you can go off on the side and talk about those things with is a helpful way to learn things.
Yeah, but there's something about transformation that takes knowledge, but we often believe like we can just capture that from a book, and we get those aha moments when we read other people's books or listen to TED Talks. Joel tells the story about driving in the car and listening to the Simon Sinek why idea. But there's also a key to that where there are other people that you can be in that kind of small group and have that conversation, and someone else's revelation is contagious and it captures and builds onto you. And your perspective and your experience as well. And you can start owning other people's stories as well as your own. I was talking about the 4 stages yesterday, and I'm talking about that idea of moving into the right-hand side of the quadrant needs community. And I think that big part of not just wanting to be part of a community, but also contributing to a community. And that contribution, Ryan, you're shaking your head because I know School of Motion, basically, that's what you guys do. You're not only, talking about it and servicing something, but those small clusters are what really drives the education forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you described about Jumpstart is kind of the I wouldn't say secret sauce, but the magic behind when it works at School of Motion, when you're think you know After Effects and you learn something about a curve editor that you never knew, and you see 7 other people going through it at the same time, and you can discuss it and you can share it, and then you get to battle test it together 2 weeks later. It's not just learning something, but it's testing it and fortifying it and then sharing it back. Like those things all combined together under that pressure of a group, that peer kind of like review feeling. I'm finding myself literally like writing down ideas to start a company so I could be in Jumpstart right now, because I can understand how it becomes almost addictive when you think about it, because it's that same thing as like learning a task versus learning how to run your own company.
Well, the journey of the creative entrepreneur really is simply being a member of a lifelong school. You just get to be a student your entire life, right? Did any of us ever stop learning? No.
Yeah, I'll say, so in wrapping this up, I kind of just wanted to put this back to you guys of thanks for being part of this small group with us, and knowing that your contributions to us, to the thoughts that we've been doing, to be part of this daily podcast or the daily live stream has been wonderful to have you guys part of it. And the fact that you guys would be able to be leaders out there, process your thoughts, be honest with us. We're so thankful for what the 3 of you guys have helped us with over the last 8 weeks or so.
Yeah. Hats off to Marcel, Ryan, Dallas, the other guests that we've had on here. So thank you guys so much. And people listening, watching, please comment and say thank you to these guys for being generous with their time and their opinions. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up for today. Thanks for staying with us. A few minutes overrun past our 30-minute mark. So Tim will be back for tomorrow as we slowly wind down and figure out what's next. So everyone stay tuned, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at the same time, if not before, in the 7 Ingredients Slack channel. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.